Hey there, dear friends. My name is Dana, otherwise known as Dana Spirit Butterfly. And this video is a video for the next moon cycle, an energy forecast. Understanding, of course, we are energy first before we are matter. The physical, tangible reality was first in an adolescent form of you and even a baby form of you. And that was all energetic. So that which you become is allowed for because it is created before you incarnate. The space is allowed for, the template is allowed for. And so as we talk about energy, we talk about essentially how the universe is shaped, how the fabric of reality is interwoven. And also we're gifting this to you as a bit of a heads up to assist you to understand the nature of spirit energy, who you are and how you show up in the world, and what power you have to make changes, to act, to move forwards, to deliberate over certain things over others, otherwise known as your power of choice. So the moon cycles, mostly in recognition of the sacred feminine rising. Of course, we have masculine and feminine energy in the physical incarnation structure. These energies are omnipresent in the universe, but here in physical earth, we have designated them as masculine and feminine for ease of reference and to situate ourselves in this dimensional reality that reflects polarity. So with today's session, we're going to talk about the new moon in Sagittarius, and it starts on the 4th of December if you're here in Australia, and it travels until the 3rd of January. So we're covering pretty much up until the new year. But of course, I like to do end of year channels. So do expect that we'll also do a end of year channel that's separate to this one. This is mostly just to wrap up the 2021 portal and to assist you with what to expect for the next couple of weeks, essentially. We've just come off the back of a Scorpio moon cycle. There was also a full moon eclipse, an eclipsed full moon. And the energetics there actually tend to flip things. And when we say tend to flip things, it tends to bring to mind certain things, certain realities that may not be desired by you for the purposes of making a decision as to whether or not you want to move forwards or move backwards or stay where you are and just keep going in the direction that you're heading. And so the first words I was given, and I'm just being reminded that we're doing less psychic readings in this particular video when we're in the Akashic field. And so those of you who don't know much about how energetics work in the planetary system and how we amass energy and all of the rest of that stuff, we have psychic energy, which is, you know, connected to the psyche. It's interwoven between us in physical land, and it's discernible. The energy of that can be translated. And if you'd like to learn how to activate your intuition and to go deeper with it and to start the process of enlivening your own psychic gifts, which we all have, then, you know, I offer courses now in what we call the clairs, which is the language of psychic energy. It's how we translate the vibration into usable data so that we can communicate it to our minds and thus see it in the physical, or at least see it in reality, our reality. In the Akashic field, it's slightly different. We do still use the clairs, though. We still, as humans, need to use the clairs in order to translate the vibratory information into usable data. But I'm starting to work a lot more into the telepathic space, where I just start to know things and I start to be gifted with information from higher beings and higher consciousnesses and collective fields and a variety of other things. Of course, we're not going to explain what they are today. As I am human, I have a certain amount of knowledge around that, probably more than you, but we only get access to that which our consciousness is ready for, which is why we train, we learn, we evolve our consciousness to be able to hold more information and technology and to expand ourselves as humans, wielding this beautiful, rich, luscious voice of our own individualized aspect of source code. So the first thing that I got from the Akasha, as I was tuning in before, is that at the moment we are still in the passageway of bridging the old and the new worlds. And when we talk about the new worlds, we often talk about Anu, Earth, or the goddess Dana. I like to slip that in there. I'm sorry, because it's, you know, true. But a new earth is basically the acknowledgement that we have all that we need right now, and the situation of ourselves in this dimensional reality where we're less prone to the fear and pain and frustration and the punishment reward system, basically, that keeps us in cycles or loops of believing that we're not enough, that we don't have enough. And this contributes essentially to imbalance on the planet. When we deny that there's life in balance that's actually available here, we're actually creating an energetic vortex that calls to us more of the same. And so if I'm always craving more money because I feel like I don't have enough, then I'm likely to be attracting more of that reality into my field, because this is the way energy works. And we're in a highly magnetic field, especially now. And especially if you identify as a light worker and you're here to assist your planet. If you identify as a light worker, then this is more true for you than for others, because your magnetism is going to call to even more dynamic experience to cathartically purge that which just doesn't align with you in a vibratory purity situation. And a lot of light workers, a lot of channels talk about this idea of purification. You'll hear it in a lot of spiritual dialogues and practices where people talk about practices of purification. A lot of that is basically returning back to alignment, returning back to you on a source level in your most purest form. The calling of this actually starts the process of healing. And so when we're talking about bridging the old and the new, what we're talking about is recognizing where we've come from as a race of DNA wielders in blood meat suits in physical form. And we're talking about how to rewire our nervous systems to be able to hold more light, hold more understanding, and to stay open to experience and to stay in loving space. So we're less prone into the suffering, we're less prone to falling into the emotional fallouts that if they're dealt with properly actually do purify and cleanse the vehicle. And if we don't give space for this cleansing and clearing process and an allowance for things to get out of balance, but to call it back into balance, if we don't allow for this process, often the suppression of it ends up with a lot of frustration, and that frustration sometimes comes out as violence, physical, mental, emotional, internal, external. And this violence is often a cry for help, but it's also a calling to return back to love, a desire to come back to love. And I feel like we want to talk about that maybe in another video, or if, of course, you know, I do one-on-one readings. So if you have questions or curiosities and you want a little bit of support, then this is what I do. This is what I offer for people. But bridging the old and allowing for the new, bridging the old and the new is actually the calling to us of our sovereign voice through our ability to make decisions for ourselves. And so the decision-making process is something that happens all the time, whether it's deciding what to eat, what time to get up in the morning, whether or not right now I'm thirsty, whether or not I actually feel good talking to this person. All of this stuff, this curiosity actually starts the process of calling to us information so that we can make decisions. And so being able to make decisions as me, and to be able to show up as a decision maker as me, is a part of the gift of this bridging the old to the new. It's a part of a new earth, is to be able to just fully voice that which is true for you, and to be present with that understanding that there is space for you in space and time, and that people can listen. And if they don't, it's actually often not something that you need to deal external to you, except under certain circumstances. And those circumstances are always going to be unique to you. You know, you may decide at some point, or have decided in some point, to get married and to be in a committed relationship. And that may call to you certain situations that ask you to contemplate problems and situations that you wouldn't contemplate if you weren't in a committed relationship. And the secret often is that a lot of people don't want to be in the pressure cooker of a committed relationship, because in order to be able to stay in the vibration of love, conversations need to happen that often we don't have the skills to explore. And so the skills in communicating, and to understand how to communicate, and to understand boundary systems and energetics and psychic boundaries, one of my personal favorites at the moment because I'm writing a course on it, is a really important gift to be able to reach that compatibility of a committed relationship. But most individuals at this level of incarnation, at this level of consciousness development or wokeness, if you'd like to use that term, these types of expressions, they are given to us to help us understand that collectively, as a consciousness, womankind, because we all are born from a womb, womankind has a gift of voice and an ability to decide, but also desires to be in a state of love. And in order to be able to find that state of love in the physical meat suit, where we have a history of the punishment reward system and a history of, you know, physical violence. Let's not deny that the earth plane has its violence. It is the history of the planet. Doesn't have to be our ongoing story though. But for now, most of us have in our DNA cultivated memories through our ancestry. So it may not have happened in your life. You may have ancestry where your parents were in World War II, for example, or your grandparents, sorry, were in World War II, depending on how old you are, or your great-grandparents even. Your ancestry and your legacy may have been in a situation of war where literally men came to attack the village. They came to destroy all the resources and to take away the men and kill them, and to rape and pillage the women and the village. And this energy is unfortunately carried through the physical blood lineage and the DNA. And so there is this momentum at the moment, particularly now because of this disparate energy that this COVID-19 experience is offering us. There is a lot of opportunity for us to be in conflict in the external world with our family members. And in a fashion, it is the cellular DNA bringing to the surface memories that are like, not the same, but like, for the purposes of healing, for the purposes of a process. And it is the process that's the emphasis here. When I feel into that, I get this sense from above that the process is what's important. It's the process of healing. And the process of healing, often it's not just a, I love you, let's get married type of scenario. Often it is, we got married 5 years ago and it wasn't what we were expecting 5 years ago. And what's happening now is this. And we need a dialogue about this, because at the moment, what I want for myself and what I want for my future, and what I want for my health and my well-being, and what you want might not be compatible. And so this is the year, this has been the year for this arising of the awareness of this disparate energy. The disparate energy doesn't have to be a problem if you know how to process energy, and if you have, of course, a healthy, communicative, open relationship. But let's face it, most of us haven't seen what that looks like. A lot of us weren't raised in environments where there was health and harmony and communication that was open. Some people are lucky and they've had that experience, but we often don't. And so the only recourse, of course, is to firstly be humble with your experience and acknowledge that these things are influences, just like the moon cycle, just like the astral alignments, just like your birth portal, just like your galactic history, just like your access to the Akashic field, or your availability to communicate the vibratory language that flows through us into psychic discernment, so that I can actually truly sense that when a person says those words, that I don't feel that that's true all the way through. And when I get to that level of self-awareness, because it has to come from you, then life gets easier. It doesn't mean that the pain necessarily goes away, but you have resources, you have tools, you have new words that can communicate more appropriately your feelings, so that they can be transmitted to the other person for them to potentially understand. Now, we can't control whether another person understands you or not. That is outside of our scope of influence. But in a love match, where love is the most important thing, our energy actually talks on other levels, but it is aided by our verbal words. And it's an acknowledgement of the sum of us, of how we are built as a system, of how I uniquely show up. That's the most vital thing that you can do for yourself and your cells right now. In your cells, I feel like the joke spirit wants to make about social isolation that's still omnipresent on the planet. But I feel like they're also wanting to call it out, the Akashic field, the Akashic lords, the Akashic record holders, those that are here to support me, to support you today. They really want to emphasize that you're never really trapped in anything. And but we can convince ourselves that we are. And that convincing can be so overwhelming that we lose sight of our ability to ease on up and to step on back and to be back in that sovereign gift of voice, that ability to choose that which I say with my words, whether I ignore my own intuitive senses, whether or not I'm just going to dive into working for a business or a company that I don't align with and whose voice and their contribution to society doesn't match my own anymore. This is the point. This is the point. This year has very much been about that. And so we're going to wrap this up. We're going to gift you, I like the term gift rather than give, just to reflect that all things that are received are of value on one level or another, whether it's what's expected or not, whether or not it answers your question fully or not. We like to appreciate that all energy that is given is a gift, and all energy that is received is also a gift. And when we can stay in this give and receive awareness of understanding the language of our spirit that is so much bigger than the physical now you, when you can suspend your judgment of this moment as being so profoundly important that there isn't anything else, if you can keep that door open just that little bit to understand that there's still more and that there'll always be more, and that what that more is very much influenced by your perspective and by your choices and by your awareness of self and your own energy. If you can reclaim your space and come back to you, you'll find December is actually pretty awesome. Of course, there's going to be the Christmas stuff. Of course, there'll be all the seasonal family feuds. Try to stay out of the drama. Try to stay out of the desire to nitpick about how things are supposed to be. When you make decisions to create a reality, i.e., to envisage the future according to what you want to see, take ownership of the fact that that's an act of creation, and that act of creation is the beginning of it. It's not the end of it. And so particularly when it comes to planning things for family, you can create an idea of what you want, all you want, but there are other members in your family, and so there's liable to be something that's not going to go according to plan. It's okay to have the dreams and the wants and the desires for things to go in one direction or another, but at the moment I'm being reminded that we need to just respect the fact that at the moment the energy on the planet, the collective frequency, the environmental factors, the roadblocks, the fact that, you know, I may not be able to get home to see my parents for Christmas because I don't subscribe to medical mandates personally. Sovereign voice, you get to choose what you believe. But I'm frustrated, and I know that if I'm frustrated, there's more who are frustrated. So expect the collective energy, i.e. the energy that surrounds us, that impacts us all on some level. It's going to make things seem to be harder than they need to be. Come always back to you and breathe and remind yourself you're here, you're present, you're actually quite wonderful, even if other people don't see it. And love is inside of you, whether you're hurting or in pain or frustrated or sad or prevented from being a part of something that you really want to be a part of. It's of no consequence, because in all states of being, you're always a part of a bigger plan. There's always something else humming in the background that you can't see. There's always something that's about to be shown to you that you couldn't have known. And if you can appreciate that, if you can keep the window of possibilities open to there being even pleasant surprises in your future, then this December, this Christmas, this period will be easier for you. And so just before I finish, if you've been experiencing in the last 6 months memories of the past that keep reappearing, and you keep asking the question, why does this keep coming back, is just test your sovereign voice. It's just a test. It's not a test to punish you. It's actually like a poke that says, you're making these decisions for yourself. This is what you're choosing to believe about the world. Are you sure that this is what you believe? Is there a possibility that there's something else that you may not be considering, or that you may be blind to because of the story that's in your head that keeps playing over and over and over, seems to still have the same resonance? And the secret is that if every time you play the record of your life back to you, if it still sounds the same, it means that you haven't evolved. And so the test really is to see whether or not you're showing up for you and appreciating that you're evolving, you're changing, you're always more. So please take a step back, recognize that the power of your mind and the story that you tell yourself sometimes blocks your true perception of you and how you actually are. Take a few steps back and take another look at yourself, take another look at where you're at. Do so with compassion and kindness. Like, trust me, you're loving, you're kind, you're compassionate. In the right situations, you make great decisions. When you feel unsafe, when you feel embarrassed, when you feel guilty, when you feel angry or frustrated, usually those feelings are masking something that you're not able to see either yet, or because you just don't want to see it. And these lessons are a part of the gift of humanness, and they aren't the end of the story. So if you want to know more, please book a session. You can do so online via my website. There's a book now button. It's www.danaspiritbutterfly, that's DANA spiritbutterfly.com. I'm available for one-on-one sessions. If you've never had a reading from me, I ask you to show me the courtesy of giving us an hour together so that I can properly tune into your energy and for the resonance to flow, and so that we can do our due diligence to you to support you in your own experience. And after that, then we do shorter readings to be able to just keep you moving forwards. And so if you're due for a touch base or a check-in, now is a really great time to do it. Energetically, our energy starts to wrap up things close to the end of the year because of the way our collective field is currently situated in the time-space continuum. So at this point in time, there's a lot of closing doors and creating space for what's new. So now is a really great time for a check-in and a touch base. And of course, it doesn't take long, but the investment is usually worth it. We gift you with a recording of it afterwards, so you can tune in again to it again and again and again for 6 to 12 months afterwards. We're also going to offer some group readings, and those group readings, if that's something that you'd like to know about, it's just to offset a little bit of the cost. It basically means that there'll be a group of you in the one reading, and we'll make sure that everybody gets a reading, and you'll get to experience the joy that is spirit energy flowing between us as a collective. So if you're interested in that, please email me. The new Spidey Sense courses, or psychic discernment, which is the Claire's program, actually starts again in January. And so at the moment, we're making sure that we're covering our US brethren, our European brethren, and our Australian and New Zealand brethren, which should cover hopefully most of the world, by offering 2 different time slots. So there'll be an opening in January and there'll be another one in February, assuming that this momentum continues to go with this energy. So with that, I send you kisses, and we'll touch base again just before the end of the new year, if that interests you. All right, until next time, friends, be well, be safe. Remember to love yourself. Spirit most definitely loves you. Okay, see you.